Joseph Humire is the executive director of the Center for a Free Society, and I asked him how controversial candidate Keiko Fujimori gained so much support.
Yeah, correct. This has been a very turbulent election period for Peru. Matter of fact, it's a lot like the show Survivor. Every week there was a candidate that was dismissed and not allowed to stay on the polls. They started with 21 candidates down to 11 this past Sunday. However, I think the consensus is that the Peruvians want to change. It's a trend that's happening throughout Latin America. They don't want the current governments. They're tired of the corruption. And so they're looking for new candidates. Now, Keiko Fujimori, who's got a solid 40%, she's getting most of her support from the provinces, the rural areas. But interestingly enough, she did win the city of Lima, which I think is a positive sign for her going into the second round.
And how has that frontrunner, Keiko Fujimori, managed to distance herself from her father, a former president who is still behind bars for corruption, mass killings, kidnappings, and more? How has she done it?
Correct. Well, there's a couple of things. I think one is she learned from her mistakes in the past. So this isn't her first time running for president. In previous elections, she faced the same obstacles, and I think she learned to concentrate her message to focus, be much more positive, not just so negative about the current administration. Matter of fact, one of the other contenders, Veronica Mendoza, who many could look at as one of her competitors, actually she didn't engage a lot in the attack against Mendoza and let her other contenders do that work. I don't say for her, but do that work instead. However, she still has a big vote. There was protest before the election that, they call it the anti-Fujimori vote that she's going to have to contend with. Now, I think, part of the reason that she's been getting a lot of support was because the corruption that existed during the period of her father has only gotten worse under the new period of the current administration. So people are realizing it may be more institutional than just one individual that's already behind bars and paying for his crimes as it is.
Currently, right behind Fujimori, though, is Pedro Pablo Kuczynski. What is the likelihood he can jump ahead of her in June's runoff election? Can anything happen between now and then? Or can we just expect that Fujimori will be Peru's next president?
No, I definitely don't think it's a done deal for Fujimori. This will be a competitive election. Pablo Kuczynski is going to get a lot of support because all the anti-Fujimoristas are going to line up behind him. He has some work to do, though. He finished off a little bit over 20%, so he has about 25 to 30% more that he has to build in order to get that 50% majority. Keiko only has 10%, so he's coming at a disadvantage. He's a little bit lower. However, he does going to get a lot of support off the bat just because a lot of other contenders that are not out of the race are going to consolidate behind him. However, I should say that there was an interesting development that happened right before the vote on Sunday. It happened actually the day before, which is there was a terrorist attack in the provinces where they attacked Sendero Luminoso, or a fragment of it, attacked a military a convoy, and I think about 10 military individuals and maybe a few civilians were killed. These kind of attacks are provoked behind the elections, and I think you're going to see more of that leading up to the runoff for the second round in June.
How closely are Peru's neighbors and other countries there in the region watching this race? What should the international community look for, especially if Fujimori wins?
I think there's a trend happening in Latin America that we're seeing. We saw it in Argentina with the election of the current President Macri. We saw it in Venezuela with the rejection of Chavismo in the assembly elections. And we've seen it in other parts, in referendums and things in other parts in South America. And that trend is creeping into Peru. And what it symbolizes is an anti-corruption movement, a movement that's tired of current politics and the corrupt politicians that are taking advantage of the people in the state. And then you're also seeing kind of a shift to the right. And I think that's the trend that we're looking at in Latin America. Keiko Fujimori is part of that trend, but so is Pablo Kuczynski. So it's really going to be a close. What's definitely clear is the current government, the Humala government, his policies will no longer be in place. Peru's moving to a next chapter, and that next chapter will be a little bit more pro-trade, pro-U.S. policies, and we'll see how that plays out.